Hey my friend, it's Duc. So in this lesson, let's talk about how to delete items, how to delete cells from your collection view and collection view controller. Let's do that in this demo. Alright, let's open up your Xcode, and this is the complete project. We have on the left hand side our edit button, and so that is the first thing that we should do, right? The second one is we have that delete button for every cell, and when we click into the edit button, each of the cells will get destroyed or get deleted. See that? Okay, so let's do this. Number one, let's go over our storyboard. Let's go over our storyboard here and design that delete button for our cells. So go over our storyboard, and then now you look at the delete button over here. We have this delete button, but you look at our background of that button. It's actually something we call a blur view or visual effect view. So that is the little secret around that. So that blur view is like the new thing in from iOS 7. If you remember iOS 7, it started to use blurry views so that it can stand out from almost every background. So to use that thing, you can just drag it down like this, and we will see some visual effect views somewhere over here. Alright, so I'm going to search for blur, and you'll see that the visual effect view with blur like that, and then drag that thing right onto the screen. And then I want to make this, the X position is like 8, and the Y is 8, like this, and then the width is 18 and height is 18. You see that? So the width is 18, the height is 18. Oh, you know what? Let's make that 20 by 20. It may be too big, but let's just try it out. And then when you click into the attribute inspector, you'll see the blur style. We can use the extra light or light. I want to use the extra light so that it will be really stand out like that. Okay. Alright, now the next thing is you have to apply auto layout on this guy. So I'm going to use the P menu, uncheck the constraint margin, 8 and 8, width and height, add the 4 constraint. Alright, next step, let me zoom in so that you can see it better. Next step is having a button on the screen. So let's have a button. Drag this button, but notice, do not drag the button on the view, do not drag it outside, drag it onto this blur view and then release it. So when you look at your document outline, the button here should be inside the effect view. Cool? And then double click into this button. Let's delete our text for the button. Delete the text for the button, and we want to change the image into, I think that is icon close or close, like this. Okay, so we have the close button, and then I want to have the change it into the X is 2, Y is 2, the width is 12, and height is 12, like that. And then I'm going to move this thing 4 to the left and 4 to the right, like this. Cool. And then let's hold this king, and then I'm going over here the pin menu to all edges. We can change that later on, but let's just test it out. Cool? Alright, now let's run the app and see how it looks like. Here we go. Okay, so here is the app. I think it looks pretty good. Now we can change the size of the button and all of those stuff later on. But notice one thing is that our button right here, we want it to make a circle. How can we make it a circle? That is what we're going to do next. To do that, let's make an outlet from this button, from this view here into our cells class. So go over, hold the control key, hold the option key, click into the photo cells, and then let's open up your cell class like this. And then right click from your visual effect view. Right click and drag from the visual effect view into the photo cell, and then let's create an IB outlet. This thing, let's name that delete button background view, like that, and connect. Cool. Now the way that you're going to make this thing a circle is you set a property called corner radius of the layer of the view to be half the size of the width and height of the view. So here is going, you're going to do this. In the image name, when we set all these things, we're going to do delete button background view dot layer dot corner radius equals to the delete button dot background view, and then we dot dot bounds dot width over 2.0. Okay, now when we do it like this, we also have to set the masks to bounds property of the layer of this view to be true, so that that mask to bound, it will be like it cuts off around the edges of this view. So we can do delete button background view dot layer dot mask to bounds to be true, like that. And now when we run the app, let's see. Here we go. We have that little circle. Looks pretty good. All right. So that's number one. Number two, let's make an IB action from this button to the photo cells class. So right click from the button to our cell class and change the connection into action. Name this delete button Duc tab and connect, just like this. Right. All right. I'm going to open our standard editor for this cell over here. Now, I'm going to okay, so let's have some space. All right, one property that I'm going to add into this is called editing. This editing is going to be kind of like a marker of each cell that if we turn on the editing mode of the collection view, then we're going to enable that delete button. Otherwise, we're going to hide that delete button, right? Because we want to be able to do this. We want to be able to click the edit button, and then we'll enable on the delete button. So to do that, number one, let's hide that delete button is hidden to be true. And then I'm going to have a property called editing, or let's call that var is editing. And that is a Boolean value. By default, it is false because we are not editing. And then we did set that thing. Okay. Oh, by the way, over here is hidden. Let's set that to be is editing, like this. Cool. So if this is true, oh, should be not editing, because if it is false, meaning that we are not editing, then we want to hide this. If it is true, then we do want to hide it. We do want to show it, right? Next thing, if this is the editing is set, then we want to hide. I want to show the background view. When we show the background view, we also show the button. So we do delete button background view dot is hidden to be not is editing. Cool. Now let's go over our photos collection view controller. In the view that load here, let's use a property called edit button item. This is a kind of like a general button item that is in view controller, UI view controller, and we can make UI navigation item dot left bar button item to be edit button item. So now when we hit run, let's run the app. When we run the app right now, here it is. When we run the app, we'll have this edit button. And when we click into the edit button, it will show the done menu. Just like this, right? But there's nothing going on here. What we want to do is show that delete button. How can we do that? Well, the way that we can do this is because when we tap into this edit button, a method or a property of the collection view will get enabled. That is editing. So we're going to override a method called setEditingAnimated in UI view controller. So let's drag it down way below here. Let's have a mark here called delete items. Okay, and then let's implement this setEditingAnimated to be true, like that. And the first thing is let's call the super.setEditingAnimated editing, animated to be animated like this, so that the superclass, the UI view controller, can do anything that it wants to do. Okay, and then we want to do the add button. So we have the add button here because now when we edit things, right, when we want to delete things, we shouldn't be able to allow the user to still add things up. So over here, let's have an outlet for that. Add RB outlet, wait for add bar button item, which is a UI bar button item like this. Go over your main or storyboard. We have the bar button item here. Right click into your view controller, this icon. Okay, so I right click into this icon, and then you'll see there's an outlet somewhere over here. The outlet, add bar button item. See this? Drag it over here. Cool. So now we have that button. Go back into the Photos Collection View Controller. Drag it down below here. So when the editing is set, meaning that we click into this edit button, we're going to have the add bar button item is enabled to be not editing. So if the editing is true, then this thing will be not enabled. If the thing is editing is false, then this thing will be enabled. Next thing, we want to check what is the index path of all the visible items in the table view. In the collection view. So if let's index path is collection view dot index path for visible items. So here it will return for us an array of index paths for all the items on the screen right now that is visible. This is really cool way to have those information. And then I'm going to enumerate through each of the index path in the index paths like this. And for each of the index path, let's have let the cell to be our collection view dot cell for item at the index path like this. And we cast that as a photo cell because it is a photo cell. Then we're going to do cell dot is editing to be editing like this, so that if the editing is true, we will turn the is editing of the cell to be true, and when the cell editing is turned into true, it will get set, and we will either show the delete button or we will hide that delete button. So now let's delete it. Let's see how it looks. Run the app. Here we go. We edit button. Click over here. Nothing happened. But look at this. All of our button is shown for the ones that is visible. See that? Pretty cool, right? And the add button here is disabled. That's pretty cool. All right. So now let's delete things. We have all the UI set up. All we have to do now is delete things. When we click over here, we want to delete that guy. So how can we do that? Now, we have an IB action over here for our photo cell. Delete button, the tab, so that we can delete things up. But we don't have any control over our collection view. That's number one. Number two, we don't have any control over our data source. Because remember, in order to delete things, right? In order to delete things from collection view, number one, or the table view, number one, you have to delete the item from your data source, just like you add things. And then number two, you have to update that the UI from the collection view. But here we don't have any piece of information because we are in a photo cell. And plus, we shouldn't be the one who delete things from our data model, even if we have the reference to our data model. Here we don't have it, we only have the image name. But even if you have access to your data model, because maybe you use things like Firebase or your own server, or you use things like core data, even if you have that pieces of information, you shouldn't do that, because that is the job of a controller, right? Dealing stuff with the model, manipulating the model, talking to the model, saving data, deleting data is not the job of a view. It is the job of a controller. Remember the MVC? The view doesn't talk to the models, and the models doesn't talk to the view. Only the controller talks to the view, and then the controller talks to the model. Right? So now, what you want to do is using a paradigm in iOS called delegation. So what it means is that we are going to have an object inside this photo cells, right? Or so for example, I am now sitting in front of my desk training you. And if I want to have like a cup of water and I don't want to leave the table and I still want to train, either I can leave the table, or there's another way is I would delegate the task of pouring me a cup of water for someone else. So I'll tell a friend that, hey, can you give me a cup of water? Right? So that is the job of a delegation. So what we want to do is I would make inside this photo cell or our view is that, hey, this view here wants to delete something, wants to do some action. But it cannot do it right now because of some restrictions of MVC, of whatever it is. So it has a delegate object, someone that it can resort that job to, someone that it can ask for help, right? And then whoever wants to do the job, which is our controller over here, if the controller agrees to do the job for that cell, for that view, then it is going to be the cell's delegate. And it has to conform, it has to implement that action. Now, I know it is kind of confusing, so let me actually draw things up for you because that is really, really important, okay? So this is the live stream from my iPad screen over here. Let's say we have the old control MVC, so have the controller over here, controller, and I have my views. And then we have, oops, gosh, that is just bad handwriting. So I have the views. And I have what? The model. Right, we have the model, the views, and the controller. Now, the MVC, it's all about the communication between the model view controller, right? So the controller is going to be the guy who talks to the view that, hey, these are the data that I want you to display those images, those text, and those things. And then the controller will talk to the model that, hey, give me these data, right? So I want to have your data. Now, what we want to do now is that the little thing is, the problem is inside the views here, the view is what receives the IB action and those kind of stuff, right? So in this case, the view is our cells. And the cell here, let's say I want to have an IB action that the button just get tapped. So the view here will know. But there's no way right now that the controller knows, because it's just the way that the collection view and the cells looks like, right? So how can we do that? Well, the model here is we are going to have an object inside the view, a reference actually inside the view that we call a delegate. And this delegate is going to be in form of a type of a protocol. Okay? And then any controller, in this case our controller, will say that, hey, I want to be your delegate right here. Awesome, the view agrees to that. But it says that, hey, if you are the controller, if you are my delegate, because the way that I implement it, then if you want to be my delegate, you have to implement a certain function. You have to implement a certain kinds of functions, a certain kinds of functionalities. Make sense? So now, when the button gets tapped over here, that's number one. Number two, we are going to let the delegate knows that, hey, I just get tapped. Can you do something over here? You are my delegate, so please do something. Okay, so here what it means. The delete button gets tapped. That's number one, right? We're going to tell the cell is going to tell that, hey, my delegate, the controller, the photos controller, that, hey, this delete button just get tapped. So you should be delete something over here, which is that function of this protocol that we are implementing. And then what? Number three, the controller is going to talk to the model that, hey, delete that thing. And then number four over here, the controller will be like, hey, the collection view, update the collection view for me. You see that coming? Okay, so that is the proper way to implement this stuff. I hope that my stupid drawing makes sense for you, but I believe it's like one of the best ways I can explain to you. But here is how it looks like. So go over your photo cells here. I'm going to have above here a protocol called what is that? Let's call this photo cell delegate, and we want to make that a class protocol. Okay, now a protocol simply is a set of rules, a set of functions that someone who conform to this protocol has to implement. That is just like the controller. If it wants to be this cell's delegate, then it has to implement this protocol. Okay, because we are going to make a reference, remember, a weak reference of our delegate will be the photo cell delegate, like this. And remember that I want to use the question mark so that it is optional, because not everyone who has a reference to the photo cells has to be the delegate. And right? Okay. And then inside this protocol, there's only one function that we want to do right now, is that, hey, delete the cell of typed photo cell, like this. Okay? So now, inside the photo cells, whenever we have the delete button, the tab, we are going to let our delegate knows that, hey, it's time for you to implement this delete cell. So we say, hey, delegate. Oops. Hey, delegate. I don't know if you exist or not. That's why this optional training. Hey, delegate. I don't know if you exist or not. But delete for me this cell. This cell is myself. Right? Because the self here is exactly that photo cell that we are wanting to delete. Now the job is finished in here. Cool? Awesome. Now, what we have to do is go into our Photos Collection View Controller, and then remember that we have that method self-item at index path. Now, when we set the cell over here, we can also set that, hey, cell, I want to be your delegate. So the self here is our controller. So it says, hey, I want to be your delegate. Right? I want to be your delegate. Okay. Now, I know it's silly, but it will yell at us. The cell now will yell at us. Hey, I know that you want to be my delegate, but you are not my delegate, because all of my delegate has to conform to the type of photo cell delegate, which is a protocol that I have over here. So you're not conforming to that photo cell delegate, then you should not be my delegate. But if you want to be my delegate, you must conform to that photo cell delegate. And so, okay, because we want to be the delegate, so that we knows that someone just hit that delete button, so that we can delete the cell. Okay, so now we just simply make an extension for our cell photos. Extension, photos, CollectionViewController, which is conforming to photo cell delegate, right? And say, okay, if you want me to be your delegate and you require me to conforming to this photo cell delegate, cool, awesome, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to delete the cell. Oops, not the center, but delete the cell, which is a photo cell, like that. Right? Cool. I'm going to delete that for you. I'm going to implement this thing for you. Bossy. Okay. So now, all I have to do is delete that thing. So we have that cell. Now let's delete it. Number one, I'm going to check we have to check if that, hey, if we do have the index path collection view, our collection view, can you give me the index path for this cell? Right? So we want to find what is the index path for this cell. Then number one, we need to delete the photo from our data source, which is our photos category, right? Number two, we want to delete the photo self at that index path from the collection view. Gosh, this is collection view. This is index path. Right, so number one, delete the photo from our data source. How can we do this? Yeah. Okay, photo category subscript index path dot section. Right now we have that index path, category. Now we want to have the image names, and then we want to remove the image names at the index path dot row. Dot item. Cool. And finally, we want to delete stuff. But remember that if you recall, when we insert the new, when we insert new item, we did it the back way, that when we have new changes in our data source, we call collection view reload data. That is bad. That is takes a lot of performance, and also it doesn't have nice animation. So instead, we call the insert items at the index path array. So here, when we want to delete something, we do have that reverse method called CollectionView.delete items at the index path. So now we have the index path array, which is index path, like that. Pretty cool, huh? So now let's run the app and see how it looks like. Here we go. Okay, so let's run this, and we have edit, delete this, and it works. Pretty cool, isn't it? All right. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to put in some breakpoints, meaning that the point in your program, I think you already know the breakpoint is like some points in your program that can stop the program while we are running it for debugging processes, right? So I want to have a collection view, no, not this one, CollectionViewCell for item at index path. I want to make sure that we put an breakpoint at line number 82 before we set the delegate. And then I want to have a breakpoint when we set the delegate. When we set that, that's cool. But then I want to have a breakpoint when we tap into the delete button, the tab. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, I want to have a breakpoint that whenever this thing gets called, and then we delete stuff. Okay, so 3 breakpoints, and so that we can see how this whole MVC, this whole delegation model works. So now let's run the app. Okay, and then you can open up this thing control over here. Then you can jump and step into the next one. Okay, now we have this guy. Stop at this because we are bound to set our delegates. That's cool. Let's click here so that we can step to the next one. Okay, now, and then I'm going because it will dequeue a bunch of cells. So let's just click here like this. Okay, a bunch of cells. I know this is silly, so let's disable this just for now. Continue like that. Cool. Okay, so now we know that it is called when it sets our cells, right? This delegate will be set when our cell is set. Next, let's click into the edit button. Nothing happened. But when we tap into this, it stopped our program at this. Cool. So now this delegate, let's look at our delegate. We have our self here, right? The self here. Let's look at our delegate. This is our delegate. Now look at the delegate. What is the type of the delegate over here? Yeah, the delegate here is our UICollectionViewController, and it has the add bar button item. It has all of those stuff. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Now let's step into that delegate delete cells. So I can let's try this. I think that is this way. Right. So click into this guy, and it implements this thing. So literally, we are telling that, hey, Delegate, which is our controller, implement this method. So it jumps into this thing in our Photos Collection View Controller, and we delete the rest. And that's why, let's run, and you see that it deletes. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, let me remove all the breakpoints so that later on when you download the complete project, it will not stop your program. So that is that. Breakpoint is incredibly important and very, very convenient for you to understand your code and also trace your code and plus debug your app. Alright guys, so that is deleting cells, and that also the conclusion of our UI Collection View course so far. I hope that you enjoy this course as much as I created for you, and I hope that at least if you don't remember anything at all in this course, still know that you have all the videos, you have all the source code here for you to use, and also you have me here supporting you. So if you have any questions, feel free to post it right below this video. Communicate, share with each other, ask others questions, because that is going to accelerate your learning so much. And a lot of you, I know that you want to go to the next level of skills as an iOS developer. And the only way personally that I can do that personally is that I have to learn every day. I have to learn from courses and books and go to seminars, and that is the only skill that is the only secret that you can move your skills to the next level. So if you would love to do that, I have an opportunity, an education opportunity for you. It is called a program called Socialize Your Apps. So if you would love to check it out, click the button right below this page. Join me in Socialize Your Apps to see if you love the program. I really think that you love it, because if you love this kind of training, check out what we can do by creating Instagram, by creating Facebook Messenger, by creating Nike e-commerce store, all of those things. We talk about that in Socialize Your Apps. So that is the UI Collection View course. I hope that I see you in social media. I hope that I see you in Socialize Your Apps. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you here, and I can't wait to see you in Socialize Your Apps. Click the button right below this page, check out the program and see how it like. And hey, know what? Join us today. Get all the bonuses and start the training immediately. You have access to all the video tutorials, all the trainings right now. And if you don't like it, after 7 days, just shoot out an email. Just say, reply to any of my emails, and we will refund your full tuition. No harm, no foul, no hustle. So that is Socialize Your Apps, and that is Collection View. So please join us in the program. Check out the program. I see you all around. Until then, go out there every single day of your life, learn new things, craft your ideas, and contribute to the world.